Thank you for tuning into Bloomberg Quint. Yesterday, all through the day, editorially, we in our newsroom were talking about why is it that it is taking credit rating agencies so long to downgrade the RCOM debt. There were interactions that the RCOM management had with media at large, and they were confident that this would not happen. Well, at 6:30 p.m. or thereabouts, their debt was downgraded, and we reported extensively about it. And therefore, now it becomes very important to get in somebody who understands everything that happens in a scenario like this and the impact that it can have, one on RCOM, two on banks which have lent to RCOM as well, because that is probably the bigger concern. And it helps if we get somebody, a spokesperson who calls a spade, a man who is known for doing that. Anil Singhvi joins us right now, needs no introduction. Anil, thank you so much for taking the time out. My first question really, are you surprised that it took credit rating agencies so long to go ahead and downgrade the RCOM debt, or is this par for the course because rating agencies typically have a bit of a lag effect?
First of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. I'm not surprised, I'm shocked.
You're shocked?
More so for two reasons. I think the RCOM's financials have been they've been under stress for some time. So I think the rating agencies should have been on their guard on this issue, and particularly the entire telecom sector is going through a very, very difficult time. So in this scenario, credit rating agencies should have been really, as I would call it, they should be looking at ball to ball for RCOM's financial health. And more so for one particular rating agency, and I don't mind speaking my mind here, is CARE. In case of Amtech Auto, a similar thing happened. They reacted when default was already done. So what you are doing is that when the horses are bolted, now you're crying on this, that, oh, this is a default case. In this particular case, when in February the payment was due, and if they delayed it and made the payment on 10th of April, I really do not know what CARE was doing in this particular case. And it has happened second time. I'm very, very surprised and very actually shocked on this issue that CARE has not learned from its own mistakes in the past. Amtech Auto really was one of the cases which was very well known to everyone, and SEBI has also instituted an inquiry on that. And I'm sorry to say this, but SEBI has also taken such a long time. So CARE has not been nailed still on Amtech Auto, and I hope and pray SEBI really comes down heavily and soon on this issue of RCOM's delay by rating agencies.
Yeah, and that's pertinent as well, and I'm sure a lot of questions to be answered, Mr. Singhvi there. My follow-up question is what happens to investors in RCOM, both on the debt side and the equity side, and there are two angles to it. This morning when we made a few calls, Mr. Singhvi, we realized that there are funds which have got exposure to RCOM debt to the tune of 600-800 crores, which is backed by our infra shares as well. So, a lot of things happening. And then, of course, there are equity investors, those few investors, but there are who bought the stock at various levels as well. What to your mind happens next here?
I'm sure they all will be very much shocked that because everyone relies upon the credit rating agencies. And I must say that I think in country, when you look at the banking industry problem, you look at every other problem, fixing the credit rating and more importantly, like understanding the risk which is associated with that.
Yeah,
I think
on time.
as a country we must rise up to the occasion. Our governance practices, particularly in this case of CARE, is very, very, very poor. Let me use this word, very poor. And I think they must fix their governance practices. They must have practices of being very, very agile so that the investors don't suffer on account of these kind of goof-ups by the rating agencies.
Now, let me try and play the devil's advocate here. Whatever little I heard from the RCOM management, and we were hoping that they would talk to us, they didn't. But I did hear them speak to a lot of other media houses, Mr. Singhvi, and they mentioned that they believe that that the lenders have been they've been working very well with RCOM, and they are trying to do a lot of deals, including land parcel deals and the demerger and the merger with Aircel, so on and so forth. And all of these will yield proceeds by which they hope to repay some debt by the 30th of September. It's a tall order to my mind, but they are hoping that this can happen. Will this help the cause of both equity and debt investors in RCOM?
No, I think we are talking a much larger issue. Particularly the rating is not looking into these kind of fixes which will happen.
Okay.
I'm glad that RCOM is saying that they will fix the issue. I hope and pray that they fix
Yeah.
the issue. My point is much larger. An investor really picks up a debt particularly on particular rating number which has been given by the rating agency, that what is the quality of the risk associated with a particular product.
Right.
And if the credit rating agency fails miserably, and mutual funds are the ones who are holding these kind of papers, investors' confidence is a very, very important factor, because I may have invested thinking that RCOM is a good credit rating risk, but if the risk fails and the risk comes down dramatically on that, I think rating agencies, in fact in this case, rating agencies are to be blamed much more than RCOM. RCOM will still find their ways and means of doing it. Corporate defaults are in India not uncommon on that.
Right.
But rating agencies slip up cannot be pardoned. My point is very simple.
I get your point. Would you
can't be pardoned.
Would you rather have had a rating agency, whichever agency, maybe downgrade RCOM once, and then if they manage to do the things that they are trying or they are speaking about, then maybe subsequently upgrade it back again? Would that, to your mind, would have been a more prudent approach?
Let us look at this way. What is rating agency saying? Rating agency is always predicting the future. It's not predicting the past. I mean, I hope the Indian rating agencies don't talk about only past. So if they're predicting the future, what is it that rating agency really done in this case? Couldn't they predict the future that this is going to be a stress case and they should have reduced it if the company was able to pay, come back to the same rating level? After the default has happened, and in this particular case, the default happened in February, it got cured in April, and you report in May. What are you doing? The patient is dead.
I get your point. Yeah, I mean, and I think you make a fair point out there, Mr. Singhvi. Now, my question is, again, I think to an extent maybe, and maybe I'm putting 2 and 2 is equal to 5, but RBI probably anticipated some of this, because they've raised various concerns with regards to banks' exposure to telecom space by and large. I think, if I'm not wrong, let me get my numbers and data correct. I think in April, it had asked banks to provision higher for telecom loans. This would have been in part due to the stress that the sector is facing, but probably also in part to serious predicaments at companies like RCOM as well. Would you reckon?
Yeah, very much. I think it's written on the wall after the Jio's very aggressive stand, and as it is, the telecom sector was not in the pink of the health before even Jio's entry. So post that, it's very clear that this will be a stressful industry. One has to be very watchful. So when we all know about it, I don't know how the rating agencies were oblivious of this fact that one of the poor players in the industry, RCOM, would have huge impact on account of Jio's entry on this. When Idea, Vodafone, Airtel, all of them are having issue in terms of profitability, in terms of every other aspect of the business. How is that RCOM would not have it, and rating agency did not pay any attention to that?
Yeah, okay.
I mean, this is uncalled for. This could have been avoided very easily. This is a very, very small thing for rating agency. If they can't fix this, I think they should close down the shop.
Okay. Fair call. As I said, a man who calls a spade a spade. Now, Mr. Singhvi, last couple of questions really. Do you think the stress, I'm asking this question to you because you've looked at, corporate India financial health in a big way in your professional capacity, and then by virtue of what you've been doing in the recent past as well, and your comments are well taken. Do you think that the stress on the balance sheet for the telecom space will really show in FY18? Could telecom do to banks what infrastructure did to banks in FY17, or you don't think the other players are such precariously placed right now as RCOM is?
I think telecom industry will go through a bit of a stressful time for next 12 to 18 months. I hope and pray, because for a country as large as India, it's not really serving the purpose of the economy and nation if we have such a shakeout in the industry and it leaves everyone bleeding, because that's going to be disastrous. We need to invest so much of capital back in this industry. So I hope that profitability and some good sense prevail. I don't think customers really need cheap services. Customers really need good services. So it should not result into cheap services but very poor services. So I hope and pray that sooner than later this industry is back on the roll, and customers like us, all of us are happy about the quality of service.
Okay. My last question to you, Mr. Singhvi, I'm sure it's a busy morning for you, but banks, PSU banks or corporate facing banks by and large in the private sector as well, have been reeling with a lot of issues. Could this be I mean, and a lot of people are talking about how they could now finally be starting to come out of the woods. Could spaces like telecom put paid the hopes that people are pinning on the revival of the PSU Bank NPA stress in FY18?
I think PSU banks will take a while before they can really repair their balance sheets and they can really look for recovery of all the NPAs. I think this whole joint lender forum that where you have 25 and 30 coming together, so RBI had come out with a much better policy framework today.
Right.
But I think they are very disparate and desperate situations, and I don't think the PSU bank chairman mindset is still there to fix the issues. They are trying to find fault with each other. That's not, according to me, that's the biggest problem. They don't have the mindset to really sit down. If the case has become bad, their mindset is not there how to really sort the issue out.
Got
So
it.
I think it's an issue of mindset rather than government has done its best. The government seems to have been proactively looking at it, but I think the bank leadership has to really rise to the occasion and fix the issue.
Great, Mr. Singhvi. Really appreciate you taking the time out this morning and talking to us. Thanks for sparing your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
That's Mr. Anil Singhvi talking about the RCOM debt default. He predominantly felt that it's got to do, it's a problem with rating agencies and not so much with the corporate, which is probably trying its best to anyways get out of the woods. Let's see if that happens or no. What we'll do is end this discussion right now, wait for the market open, and in a few minutes get back with the banking expert to try and tell you what the impact on banks could be. Thanks for tuning in to Bloomberg Quint.